perfection des lignes, l'harmonie des couleurs, la noblesse des matières. C'est là que j'ai appris à voir.
Liliane Bettencourt, the world's richest woman. A French businesswoman and economist, she was born on October 21st, 1922 in the 7th district of Paris, named Liliane Henriette Charlotte Betsy Schuyler. She was the only daughter of Eugene Schuyler, founder of the L'Oreal Group, known as the French hair coloring company at the time, and Louise Madeleine Berthe Schuyler, who died of a liver abscess when Liliane was just 5 years old. Rigorously educated by the Dominicans, Liliane began her career as a trainee in her father's company at the tender age of 14 and worked her way up through the ranks. On June 8, 1950, Liliane Henriette married former French Foreign Minister André Bettencourt in Valoris, becoming Mrs. Bettencourt. In 1953, this union had an only daughter, Françoise Bettencourt, the current heiress of the L'Oreal Group. In 1957, Liliane Bettencourt lost her father and immediately became heiress to the L'Oreal Group, though she refused to take over the management of the company, which was eventually entrusted to her husband André Bettencourt. But she remained on the board of directors. She had 2 grandsons, Jean-Victor Mayers and Nicolas Mayers, from her daughter's marriage to Jean-Pierre Mayers, vice chairman of the board of directors of the L'Oreal Group and managing director of Clymene, the company that manages Dame Bettencourt's fortune. In 2007, her husband died, and 10 years later, on September 21, 2017, she herself passed away at her home in Neuilly-sur-Seine at the age of 94, just 1 month before her 95th birthday. In September 2017, Forbes magazine ranked Liliane Bettencourt the richest woman in the world, with an estimated fortune of $40 billion. But how did she accumulate such wealth and become the richest woman in the world? Mrs. Bettencourt's net worth. As mentioned earlier, Liliane Bettencourt inherited the company from her father, Eugene Schuyler, just after his death in 1957. Initially, the company was called French Society for Harmless Hair Color. Thereafter, the company changed its name, first to L'Oreal, then finally to L'Oreal in 1939. According to the report, Liliane didn't study mathematics, economics, finance, or even entrepreneurship, but she excelled in it while running the company, which made her the wealthiest woman in Europe and the world from 2013 until her death in 2017, when her daughter Françoise Bettencourt inherited the title to this day. Liliane Bettencourt became the biggest shareholder in the L'Oreal Group, but as she didn't want to take over the presidency, she entrusted it to her husband, André. However, having understood the structure and workings of this empire better than anyone else, she continued to work in the shadows for her family's legacy. The excellent relationship she had with certain political figures enabled her to make the right decisions and take the right initiatives in regards to her empire. Driven by her ambition to make her company a world leader in cosmetics, the L'Oreal heiress, as she was known in the media, set out to acquire companies specialized in this field. We should remember that the end of the 19th century and the 20th century were centuries in which the power of beauty was discovered. So, issues relating to the care of physical appearance were a central concern. Cosmetics thus appeared to be a major response to these concerns, and this situation became a golden opportunity for investors in this field because everyone wanted to look their best. As a result, many people kept buying more and more cosmetic products, which generated huge profits for entrepreneurs in the field. So everyone in the cosmetics business wanted to stand out from the crowd by becoming the leader and highest profit maker. Mrs. Bettencourt, acting behind the scenes, started her purchase to expand the L'Oreal Group. On October 8, 1963, Liliane supported her company's IPO. This first IPO was listed at 830 French francs, and on December 31st of the same year, the share price reached 1160 francs. This is when Mrs. Bettencourt's success story began. After the IPO, Liliane made two major acquisitions: Lancôme, a perfume, skincare, and makeup company in 1964, the Garnier Group, which specialized in the manufacture of hair care products in 1965. However, the amount it was purchased for was not disclosed. Mrs. Bettencourt did not stop there. She continued her predatory hunt for companies, hereby advising her husband to buy Gime in 1973, a company founded in 1923 and specialized in the manufacture of foundations, the most famous of which is Pancake Foundation. Maybelline in 1976 for $660 million, that is 3.3 million French francs. It was founded in 1915 in New York by Tom Lil Williams to manufacture mascaras. The L'Oreal Group merged the two brands in 2000 to create a single brand called Gime Maybelline, and products from this brand had the same name. Advised by Georges Pompidou in 1974, she led her husband to introduce Nestlé into the capital of L'Oréal. Nestlé is a Swiss multinational founded in 1873 by Henry Nestlé. Is one of the world's leading players in the food industry. The L'Oréal Group didn't end here when it came to acquisitions. It acquired a multitude of companies grouped into 4 product categories: professional products. This division offers brands serving professional hairdressers such as Alexandre de Paris, whose role was to distribute, popularize, promote, and advertise; Baxter of California, founded in 1965 by Baxter Finley and acquired by L'Oréal in 2013; Carita, founded in 1946 and acquired in 2014; Cheryl's Cosmeceuticals, founded in 1986 by Oscar and Cheryl Pereira and acquired in 2013; Consumer Products. This division, which includes the group's well-known brands, is dedicated to high-tech products. Carol's Daughter, an American brand created by Lisa Price in 1993 and acquired in 2014; Dark and Lovely. Essie, founded in 1981 and acquired in 2010. L'Oreal Looks. This division brings together the group's most prestigious brands, offering perfumes, skincare, and makeup products through selective distribution. Atelier Cologne, a perfume brand founded in 2009 by Sylvie Ganter and Christophe Cervicel and acquired in 2016. Biotherm, founded in 1950 and acquired in 1970. Dermatological Beauty. This division brings together dermocosmetic skincare brands based on advice and prescriptions, offers highly technical products. Acne-Free, Ambi, and CeraVe, American skincare brands created in 2005 and acquired in 2017 from Canadian pharmaceutical group Vale Ant. La Roche-Posay, founded by Professor René Leveillé in 1975 and acquired in 1989. It includes the PHAS and Biomedic businesses. The list of companies acquired by Mrs. Bettencourt is so long that we can't possibly enumerate them all here. However, it is important to know that, in addition to these acquisitions, L'Oréal also created companies to diversify its business. These included Kerastasis, Ombre Solaire, Keraskin Aesthetics, L'Oréal Professionnel, amongst others. All these acquisitions and creations within the L'Oréal Group have gradually increased Liliane's fortune, thanks to the profits generated by each of them. Her position as majority shareholder in this group also gives her a significant advantage in terms of the dividends she received. This enabled her to make more profit than any other shareholder. Mrs. Bettencourt's real estate holdings. According to the daily BFM Immobilier, not all of Liliane Bettencourt's real estate holdings are known. However, Le Monde has compiled a list of some of them. The daily newspaper mentions a mansion in Neuilly-sur-Seine valued at 30 million euros, a villa on Cape Formentor in Majorca, and 2 houses, the first in Great Britain, the second in the Seine Valley at St. Maurice-d'Etelin. She also owns an island in Seychelles. Its acquisition may have, however, evaded tax authorities. Legal affairs. It all began towards the end of 2007. At the time, Liliane Bettencourt's daughter, Françoise Bettencourt-Meyers, was in conflict with her mother, who she felt was squandering the family inheritance by offering gifts to her friend François-Marie Bagnier, an eccentric photographer with whom she had begun a friendship in 1987 during a photo shoot for a magazine. The amount of the gifts given to Mr. Bagnier was close to $1 billion. After Françoise Bettencourt had established this, she decided to file a complaint against Mr. Bagnier for abuse of weakness. Meanwhile, Pascal Bonnefoy, Madame Bettencourt's butler, tired of watching his boss being taken advantage of by unscrupulous people, decided to put a tape recorder in her office to record her conversations with guests without her knowledge. The butler's aim was to have evidence to defend himself in the event of a decision to fire him. Since that year, all the servants who had tried to denounce Mr. Bagnier's hold over Liliane had been fired. Pascal Bonnefoy passed on the recordings to Françoise Bettencourt, who in turn passed them on to the police. During examination of these recordings, it was discovered that the old lady had gone as far as declaring François-Marie Bagnier her sole legatee in a secret will. And had the scandal not broken, and without the intervention of the courts, François-Marie Bagnier would only have had to wait for the fateful date, the old lady's death, to proclaim himself heir to the richest woman in the world. His assets would have exceeded the €1 billion mentioned by the police at the start of the affair, and the secret will would have made him a key figure in the future of the L'Oréal Group. The recordings also revealed that François-Marie Bagnier was far from the only one to benefit from the old lady's largesse. The family affair was turned into a politico-financial scandal involving many people, including Patrice de Maistre, the manager of Liliane Bettencourt's fortune, and Eric Worth, Minister of Budget and Treasurer of the UMP Union of Popular Movement. Nicolas Sarkozy's name also appeared as one of those who took advantage of the old lady, as he was accused of having asked her for money to finance his 2007 presidential campaign. In the recordings, dating from September and October 2009, Eric Worth is said to have acted as a facilitator for Liliane's business dealings, in particular facilitating tax evasion, and his wife Florence Worth was hired by Liliane Bettencourt at Clymene, the company that manages her fortune. In return, he is said to have awarded a Legion of Honor to Mr. Patrice de Maistre, Liliane's henchman.
Comme tous les ministres, je remets des décorations. C'est pour ces raisons que j'ai remis la Légion d'honneur à Monsieur de Maistre et que je l'ai remis à d'autres personnalités comme vous tous l'avez fait.
So, Florence Worth allegedly signed the checks for Valérie Pécresse, Minister of Higher Education and Research, Nicolas Sarkozy, and Eric Worth. In the same recordings, Patrice de Maistre was heard talking of the existence of secret accounts in Switzerland, as well as the possibility of moving €12 million to Singapore if the French tax authorities come forward. He also warned Mrs. Bettencourt of his maneuvers to get €65 million out of an undeclared Swiss account. Another recording revealed that Liliane Bettencourt owned an island in the Seychelles, Aros Island, through a financial arrangement. On July 10, 2010, following all these revelations, a series of investigations were opened, one for violation of privacy, as Mrs. Bettencourt had not appreciated being recorded without her knowledge, one for illicit political financing, another for tax fraud laundering. A few days later, a fourth investigation was opened following a complaint lodged by Eric Worth against Mrs. Bettencourt's accountant, Claire Thibaut, for slanderous denunciation. A trial was opened on July 16, 2010, at which François-Marie Bagnier, Patrice de Maistre, Mrs. Bettencourt's tax lawyer, and the manager of her island in Seychelles were taken into custody for tax fraud. the Nanterre Public Prosecutor's Office decided to continue its preliminary investigation in order to shed light on the content of these recordings.
Le parquet développera sa position, les parties mises en examen, les parties civiles développeront leur position par l'intermédiaire de leur avocat et le débat sera public. Et là, je vous invite évidemment à être présent dans la salle d'audience parce que ça, vous aurez des éléments qu'aujourd'hui je ne peux pas révéler.
It was during this investigation that Claire Thibaut, Liliane Bettencourt's former accountant, asserted that she had given 150,000 euros in cash to Eric Worth to finance Nicolas Sarkozy's 2007 presidential campaign.
Le président Sarkozy a, en cours d'enquête, reçu à l'Élysée à 2 reprises Liliane Bettencourt, c'est-à-dire qu'il s'est impliqué dans un litige qui à l'époque était strictement privé. Et Madame Bettencourt, on le sait également, était venue le voir pour lui demander d'arrêter cette affaire. Comme par hasard, à partir de ce moment-là, le procureur Courroy a décidé que cette affaire devait être classée.
Mediapart also revealed that, according to Liliane Bettencourt's former driver Nicolas Sarkozy, asked the Bettencourts for money to finance his presidential campaign in 2007. Claire Thibaut also accused François-Marie Bagné and Patrice de Maistre of taking advantage of the billionaire's fragility to extort money from her. In particular, she claimed to have given Patrice de Maistre 50,000 euros, which would have been intended for Eric Worth, who was in charge of Nicolas Sarkozy's campaign treasury at the time. She had also mentioned François-Marie Bagné's influence over her boss. At the end of the various trials that followed 6 long years of proceedings, Eric Worth was indicted for influence peddling in February 2012, followed by Patrice de Maistre, who was imprisoned for abuse of weakness and misappropriation of corporate assets. Nicolas Sarkozy was initially placed under assisted witness status in 2012 before being indicted for abuse of weakness in 2013.
En France, Nicolas Sarkozy mis en examen ce jeudi pour abus de faiblesse dans l'affaire Bettencourt. Sur ces images, l'ex-président français quitte le palais de justice de Bordeaux après avoir été confronté pendant plusieurs heures au moins à 4 membres du personnel de la milliardaire.
A few months later, on October 7, 2013, he was finally dismissed by the criminal court. As for Eric Worth, he was under investigation for passive influence peddling and for concealing the illicit financing of a political party. Through his lawyer, Eric Worth denied all the charges brought against him.
En ce qui concerne le financement politique, il a, avec une vigueur et une énergie particulière, nié avoir reçu un quelconque financement politique qui eût été non conforme à la loi.
Worth was finally acquitted in May 2015. François-Marie Bagné was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment for abuse of weakness, 6 months of which were suspended with a 350,000 euro fine, as well as payment of 158 million euros in damages to Liliane Bettencourt. Her companion received an 18-month suspended prison sentence. Patrice de Maistre was sentenced to 30 months imprisonment for abuse of weakness and laundering of tax fraud, including a 1-year suspended sentence and a 250,000 euro fine. He also had to pay 12 million euros damages to Liliane Bettencourt. He abandoned his appeal and reached an agreement with the Bettencourt family regarding payment of the damages. Liliane Bettencourt, a discreet philanthropist. Mrs. Bettencourt was a generous woman, an expression generally used to describe a charitable person who cannot remain indifferent to the sufferings of others. She was heavily involved in social action in France through a foundation Bettencourt Schooler set up with her husband in 1987 to support NGOs and individuals focused on scientific research, particularly into diseases such as AIDS, cancer, deafness, and other handicaps. It is a foundation that strives to embody the will of a family, driven by an entrepreneurial spirit and an awareness of its social role to reveal talents and help them go further. She devoted her time and energy to accompanying and supporting people who work in the science, arts, and solidarity fields because these fields contribute to the common good. To accomplish its missions, it awards prizes and supports projects through donations and highly personalized coaching. Since its creation, it has supported an average of 518 prize winners and 1,600 projects carried out by various teams, associations, establishments, and organizations. In 2008, the foundation was granted a total of 552 million euros to carry out its mission. The INSERM National Institute of Health and Medical Research and the Institut Pasteur de France owe her a great deal, as she has financed several research projects by students at these institutes through her foundation. Bettencourt scholarships for young scientific researchers now number in the hundreds, and thanks to the foundation, there is a chair of technological innovation at the Collège de France. The Bettencourt Schuler Foundation is said to have a financial capacity of about 800 million euros, making it by far the largest family fund in the country, which the L'Oréal heiress divided into 3/3 for culture, scientific research, and social support. Between 2017 and 2018, the Foundation's endowment actively contributed to the construction of the SOS Children's Village in Beauvais, Matha. The 8 family homes built within this village accommodated 36 children separated from their parents. One of these houses was granted to a family of 5 children to enable them create a warm and comfortable home. They were able to rebuild their lives and share happy moments. Liliane Bettencourt, suffering from Alzheimer's disease. During the Bettencourt affair, the Courbevoie Hauts de Seine guardianship judge, Mrs. Castano, had to decide whether to place Liliane Bettencourt under legal protection. To this end, she requested a medical report. The conclusion of this report, which Le Monde has been able to read, are unambiguous. The report referred to the interview conducted by neurologist Bruno Donazot, who judged Liliane Bettencourt incapable of answering the various test questions, and that of psychologist Jean-François Dartigues, who noted that the billionaire suffered from anosognosia and absence of awareness. Above all, the experts reveal that, after listening to Christophe de Jager, Mrs. Bettencourt's attending physician, they discovered that Mrs. Bettencourt suffered from mixed dementia. The report concluded that Mrs. Bettencourt, suffering from obvious cognitive disorders with temporal disorientation, memory disorders, reasoning disorders, and aphasic elements, presented a clinical picture of dementia at a moderately severe stage. In their view, Mrs. Bettencourt presents a moderately severe stage of Alzheimer's disease with possible vascular involvement, and is the prey of a slow and progressive cerebral degenerative process. This justifies certain actions taken by Mrs. Bettencourt, in particular with regard to Mr. Barnier, to whom she gave the status of universal legatee in a secret will, which she no longer remembered. Here is a conversation between her and her notary, extracted from the recordings of her butler, which illustrated one of her amnestic moments concerning this universal legatee affair. Mrs. Bettencourt, "You have the will?" she asks. The notary, "Yes, I don't have it here, but Mrs. Bettencourt, how much did I leave François Marie?" "How much?" The notary, "Universal legatee." Mrs. Bettencourt, "Meaning?" The notary, "Everything." Mrs. Bettencourt, No. The notary, "Yes, you're the one who told me." Mrs. Bettencourt, "Do you think he's often criticized for it?" The notary, "Nobody knows. It's secret for the moment, completely private, but the day." This is an extract from a conversation Mrs. Bettencourt had with her notary about having made Mr. Barnier her sole heir by appointing him sole legatee in a secret will. Sources close to the old lady revealed that she was often absent from home, no longer recognizing her loved ones or knowing where she was. She had never recovered from a nasty fall at the end of the 2006 summer at her property in the Balearic Islands, which led to her emergency hospitalization. This was the date chosen by the experts to mark the beginning of her vulnerability state. Her husband's death in autumn 2007 also came as a further shock. Starting out as a trainee in the family business in 1936, at the age of 14, Liliane Schuler went on to become heiress to the L'Oréal Group. Her innate entrepreneurial ingenuity enabled her to raise the company inherited from her father to the top of the world. A lady with a big heart, she was committed to social action, and the Bettencourt Schuler Foundation illustrates this perfectly. Through this foundation, she carried out many charitable actions, notably for the relocation of homeless children, for whom the foundation built a village of 8 family homes. The foundation has also provided remarkable financial support to medical research institutes and laboratories, such as the Pasteur Institute in Paris, to name just one. As a human being, she experienced difficulties, particularly in the legal and health fields. She died in September 2017 at the age of 94, possessor of an incredible fortune that made her the richest woman in the world. To this day, 6 years after her death, her family still holds this title. For how long, only time will tell.
If you liked the video, please subscribe, like and share it, and don't forget to click on the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you soon on Mazel Media, information at the heart of the world.